Deep Rock Galactic's hardest boss isn't a Dreadnought, Corlock Seed, or Betsy. It isn't even the Omen or the Caretaker. It's the damn Overclock grind. For a game that gets so many things right, the current method of obtaining overclocks still sticks out as being pretty flawed, even accounting for the recent improvements in which promoting a dwarf now awards players with 3 cores, one being a blank core and one being a completely random weapon overclock. Even with these improvements, getting overclocks is fully dependent on RNG luck. All that's changed is now you get 1 or 2 extra pulls of the overclock slot machine every 10 hours or so. And if you consider the fact that the average player sticks around for about 40 hours according to the devs themselves, this is a pretty inconsequential change for most of the player base. They're only getting a handful of extra random overclocks because of the new promotion overclock system. So yeah, these changes are a step in the right direction, but if you don't want to be stuck grinding the game for some unknown amount of time just to finally get lucky and get a fun overclock like Special Powder or Fat Boy, I don't blame you. Here's how to beat the system and get any overclock you want. Save scumming is the idea of reusing the same save file over and over until you get a particular result you want. You save the state of a game just before an uncertain event, like a hard boss fight. Then you let the moment play out, and if things don't go the way you want, you just discard your progress and reload the save. Rinse and repeat until you get the outcome that you were looking for. So how can this be done in Deep Rock? Well, you're still gonna obtain most overclocks normally through the core hunt and deep dives in all their RNG and time-gated glory. But there's 2 systems we can exploit by save scumming. First, when the game gives you overclocks at Forge Mastery, and second, when you go promote a character. I'm gonna go more in depth using the Forge Mastery strat since I started making this video before the devs added promotion overclocks, but I will show the second strat as well. Also, make sure to stick around because later in the video I share what I think are the best overclocks to look out for. I'll also be discussing the ethics of save scumming, since I'm sure this video will ruffle some feathers. You can find timestamps for all of this info. Let's start with the Forge Mastery reward. Here's how to do it on PC, Steam specifically. Step 1 is to prep your game save. Open up the game and head over to the Forge. If the Forge is still locked for you, keep playing the game until you promote a character, and hit the like button so you can easily come back to this video when you're ready. Forge enough overclocks so that the meter at the bottom is 1 segment away from the blue weapon overclock icon. If you see a purple hat icon instead, that's a cosmetic overclock reward. So keep forging until you get that one, and then it should switch over to the blue weapon one. Once you're ready, force a save in-game. You can do this in the space rig by spending credits, so go tip Lloyd or play a song on the jukebox. Also, make a note of what time it is when you spend the credits and are thus saving the game. This will make it a lot easier to identify this particular save file when you're save scumming later. Now comes step 2, backing up your save file. Close the game, then right click on it in Steam, then go to Manage, Browse Local Files. A File Explorer window should pop up. In there, click on the FSD folder, Saved, then Save Games. Here you will see all your save files for Deep Rock. I have a lot of them since I have multiple Steam accounts, but all you're looking for is the one that ends in player.sav. That is the primary save file. Copy the player.sav file and put it somewhere safe. Here, I'm pasting it to my desktop. We're done here for now, but keep this File Explorer window open. We'll be using it later. Now we're ready to move on to step 3, obtaining the Forge Mastery overclock. Open the game back up and head over to the Forge. Craft the final overclock to get the weapon overclock reward. Now, the game will randomly present to you icons for 2 out of the 4 classes. You will get a weapon overclock for the class that you select. Here, I get full chamber seal for the gunner's BRT, a decidedly mid overclock that I don't want, no offense. We can do better. Step 4, reloading the save file. Exit from the Forge menu, then hit Escape, Options, and Save menu. Click on Restore Save and a new window will pop up in-game. If you see a save file with the time that matches what you noted earlier, you can click on it here to reload the save file. Go back to the Forge and try your luck again. If you don't see a matching save file in-game, then you can close the game and copy-paste the save file from earlier. Go back to the Explorer window and delete the player.sav. It should have a date modified time that is very recent. Copy the one you set aside, so for me it's the one on my desktop. Then go back to the Explorer window and paste it in. Then you can restart the game and try again. Rinse and repeat. But that's it. Keep going until you land on an overclock you want to keep. For PS5, the general steps are the same as PC, but we first have to switch the PS5 to use manual cloud saves. This way we can choose the specific save file we're holding onto in the cloud. Go to Settings in the top right of the home screen, then scroll down to Save Data. Select Save Data PS5, then go down to Sync Save Data, then select Auto Sync Save Data. Here, Enable Auto Sync should be toggled on by default. If nothing shows up underneath, let it load for a bit, and then your list of games should show up here. Scroll down to Deep Rock and deselect it, then exit out of the menus. The rest of the steps 1 through 4 are very similar to how it is on PC. Since I have all the weapon overclocks on my PlayStation account, I have to use the purple cosmetic reward in my example. In reality, you would prep your game with the blue weapon icon, not the purple one as seen on screen. When it's all set up, spend money in-game to force a save. Here I decide to use the jukebox, so my credits end in 9-5. Having it be a number that ends in 5 or 0 just makes it easier for me to remember. Then press the menu button on the controller and go to Options, Save Menu, Restore Save. Here, note down the time of the save file with the correct amount of credits. Close the game by going back to the PS5 home screen, hovering over Deep Rock, then press the menu button and select Close Game. Press the menu button again and select Upload, Download, Save Data. Select Upload, then Yes to confirm. You are now storing in the cloud the save file that is one forge away from the weapon overclock reward. Open the game back up and head over to the forge. Craft the final overclock to get the weapon overclock reward. Chances are you won't get what you want right off the bat, so exit the forge, then hit the menu button, options, then save menu. Click on restore save and a new window will pop up in game. If you see a save file with a time and credit amount that matches what you noted earlier, you can click on it here to reload the save file. Go back to the forge and try again. If you don't see a matching save file in-game, go re-download the correct save file from the cloud. Close the game, then press Menu, Upload, Download Save Data, then press Download this time. Whatever you do, make sure to not press Upload here, otherwise the save file that you kept earlier will be overwritten. Close the menus and relaunch the game. Then you can repeat steps 3 and 4 as needed. But that's it. Keep going until you land on an overclock that you want to keep. So I just want to quickly show that you can also save scum the promotion overclocks. It's a very similar process. First, get a dwarf to red rank level 25 and complete their promotion assignment. Then back up the save file right before you go through the promotion ceremony. Load back into the game and finish the promotion. At the end, you'll be rewarded a random weapon overclock. Using the same steps I outlined earlier, keep reloading the save file to reroll which random overclock you get until you're happy. And if you're on PC, I highly suggest the Closer Promotion Terminal mod to save time. Alright, quick plug. If you found this video helpful so far, liking and subscribing would actually help me out a lot. And if you have any questions about save scumming or want to see certain overclocks live in action, drop me a follow over on Twitch. I'm also running a Supporter 2 DLC giveaway over there. So now that you know how to choose your own overclocks, you're probably wondering which ones to look out for. I'll get you started with 4 famous overclocks, 1 per class, and I'll share my thoughts on all the other good overclocks in a separate video, coming soon. Fatboy turns NG's PGL into a portable nuke launcher. These nukes explode into a huge burst of large AoE damage and leave behind some lingering radiation damage as well. It's the overclock with probably the most visual flair in the entire game. And now some downsides. It has very limited ammo, and while it will delete hordes of grunts from existence, it also only tickles tanky Praetorians, oppressors, and bulks. Also, these nukes will deal lots of friendly fire, so if you're new to using it, please bring the friendly fire perk, especially on Hazard 4 and 5. You will need to complement Fatboy with a generalist primary build that can hold its own, due to Fatboy's limited ammo. I'd recommend your favorite shotgun build combined with turret whip or something like explosive chemical rounds for the lock. I like bringing nukes only in very niche use cases. It's too much burst damage and too ammo hungry. Also, I don't like being a nuisance to my teammates by denying large areas of the map due to the overclock's DOT effect. Look, I can't deny it's a fun overclock, but it's probably not the most practical one. Special powder for the boomstick is the scoutiest scout overclock in that it provides all the mobility you could ever need. It propels the user in the opposite direction of the shotgun blast when fired. Most notably, you can shoot straight downwards as you're approaching the ground to negate fall damage. Instead of emptying both barrels in the same direction, I've learned that you can shoot once to get you going in the general direction you want, and then later shoot straight down to maintain that trajectory. Special powder is fun, but the better you get with Scout's grapple, the less you'll find yourself relying on special powder's utility. I almost always run more damage on Scout's secondary, usually something like embedded detonators. Neurotoxin payload for Gunner's autocannon is the premier Has 5 training wheels overclock. The neurotoxin status effect applies a moderate damage over time effect. More importantly, it slows the bugs down, and when you combine it with the Fear mod on tier 5, this fear effect lasts even longer. All you really have to do is pepper a few shots into hordes of bugs and let them die from the DOT as they scurry away. If that sounds overpowered, it's because it is. Do keep in mind that the neuro damage is kinda mid against anything larger than a guard, so make sure to bring a secondary weapon kitted towards single target damage. Neurotoxin payload is a very strong overclock, but can become a crutch because of its strength. Do try to venture out from the overclock and avoid being a one-trick with it, because there are scenarios where it's essentially useless, like in elims or in rival presence missions. So compared to the other classes, Driller doesn't really have a signature overclock. At least, that's what I thought at first. The further you venture into Has 5 and the modded difficulties beyond, you will see Drillers almost exclusively using sticky flames. With this overclock, the walls are your canvas and your flamethrower becomes your paintbrush. Lay down a few lines and watch a whole horde of grunts vaporize. I like to pair it with the wave cooker, which can temp shock for single target burst damage, but it's also great with EPC thin containment field builds. So in my first few hundreds of hours, I was a devout cryo main for Driller. I found the playstyle of sticky flames kinda underwhelming until the temp shocking with wave cooker became a thing. I also found it somewhat boring to shoot the ground instead of the bugs, and especially when I was new to using sticky flames, I kinda felt like I wasn't even doing anything. This changed when I started using the live mission stat tracker mod, which shows you your live kill count, and I quickly learned just how powerful and efficient this overclock is. Nowadays, I probably use sticky flames just as often as cryo. So those are the 4 most famous class overclocks. At least in my opinion. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments. And before anyone goes down there to call me a leaf lover for sharing a game exploit, I want to expound upon the ethics of save scumming. Is it really a quote-unquote scummy thing to do, like its name suggests? To my knowledge, save scumming is most commonly done in single-player games, especially in roguelikes. I remember learning about it when I was playing Dead Cells a few years ago, and in that game, I think you would save scum by manually saving at the start of each stage. That way, if you failed or lost too much health at any time, you could just reload and try again. In the context of that game, save scumming essentially added infinite lives and checkpoints to a game where one death was supposed to end the whole run. With that being said, you can see why some might look down on save scummers. It lets them clear content that they otherwise wouldn't be able to. But is this even an issue? If save scumming doesn't affect other people's experience of the game, and it helps someone to enjoy their own gameplay experience more, then what really is the problem? The funny thing is, I think the Dead Cells devs came to this conclusion as well, because when I was researching for this part of the video, I learned that last year, that game was updated to essentially have save scumming as a built-in mechanic. The devs did this by adding an assist mode, which lets players have multiple or even infinite lives per run. I know we went on a bit of a tangent there, but that context is important when relating all this back to Deep Rock. Although DRG is a multiplayer game, save scumming does not negatively impact the experience for others. In fact, I could argue the opposite, since save scumming to create good builds can help a greenbeard become more proficient at all 4 classes faster than they would have otherwise, had they been stuck piecing together a build with only a handful of random overclocks. It's pretty common to hear that newcomers often only play the classes that they have good overclocks for, and save scumming can help remedy this. Which gets to the heart of the issue. Using only RNG for overclock acquisition is just fundamentally bad game design. Doubly so since this is a gameplay progression system that requires hundreds of hours to complete. When the game picks random overclocks for the player, it removes player agency from the moment. Basically, you're dealt the hand you're given and you just have to accept the results whether you like it or not. It's easy to feel discouraged and fully disengaged from the system once you realize this. And I know firsthand because I've had multiple friends quit the game after realizing just how slim the odds are of pulling the fun overclocks amidst all the filler. This makes the devs' justification for RNG overclocks seem a bit misguided. They maintain that the system encourages people to try out all the classes, but that's only true for the people who choose to put up with the system in the first place. Honestly, I'm willing to bet that there are more greenbeards who are put off by this immensely tedious slot machine grind compared to ones who are motivated by it, which is ironic for a player retention tool. So here are some suggestions to the devs. If the goal is to encourage players to try out all the classes, why not provide more guidance to them when they're starting out? I'd love to see in-depth, class-specific tutorial missions that show greenbeards the basics of how to play each class. Or why not have more direct rewards for players who master all the classes? I'd love to see a more fleshed out promotion badge. Perhaps a wreath could be added to the bottom of each player's portrait icon, showing the promotion rank that all 4 of the dwarves have reached. Once all dwarves are silver, for example, the wreath would then turn silver as well. This would progress further into the higher promotions as well. You get the idea. As to how the overclocks could be overhauled, look, I'm not opposed to RNG being in the system. My issue is that the system is fully based on RNG and nothing else. If it can be supplemented by meaningful player choice, then I think the system would be in a much better place. Here's 2 potential ideas to make this work. Option 1, with every big promotion where the class portrait frame changes color, so from bronze to silver, silver to gold, etc., let the player choose any overclock they want for that class. That way, a player who has their eye on a specific overclock has a clear goal that they can work towards. This also has a side benefit of making promotions more meaningful, instead of just being a tedious process after the allure of the first few wears players off. Option 2. Let the player choose between 2 revealed overclocks for things like promotion overclocks and forge mastery bonuses. This allows players to make an informed choice instead of getting a random overclock assigned to them. And even if the outcome isn't that different, the player leaves that interaction feeling like they had some control and influence over the decision. Look, I'm only making these suggestions because I know the Ghost Ship devs are good people trying to make the best game that they can, and that they're open to constructive player feedback. It's just that for all the praise that they get for employing non-manipulative strategies like optional cosmetic-only DLCs, free seasonal content, and battle passes with no FOMO, I just find it strange that they're so insistent on sticking with what's essentially a Skinner box to govern a core part of player progression. That's all. With all this being said, let's circle back to the original question. Is save scumming for overclocks justifiable? Well, let me phrase it this way. Should fundamental class-defining overclocks like Special Powder be locked behind a grind of indeterminate length, out of reach for the average player who only plays for 40-ish hours? I personally think that's unreasonable, and so the only solution we have as players is to save scum. Hope that makes sense. Alright, that's enough moral grandstanding from me. Like and sub if you found this video helpful, and see you soon in my upcoming video about the best overclocks.